Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our wonderful guests. This way, more people can find out about the show. Today, we have another great episode lined up for you. It's an in-person episode here in studios at Half Coast, which are always my favorite. My guest and I originally connected online last year and met up for coffee shortly after, realizing we have a lot of the same values and outlooks on both business and life. And I was a guest on his podcast. I just love his energy and have continued to follow and support him along the way, and he has done so for me as well. He is as real as they come, which is a breath of fresh air, especially in the online social media world where a lot of people aren't who they actually say they are. My guest today is Mike Kitko. He is the founder and CEO of Inner Wealth Global, a personal and professional development company which helps business owners create more wealth, success, and happiness in their lives and businesses. Through coaching, training, and other needle-moving content, Inner Wealth helps business owners keep their eyes on what they really want, which is a fulfilling life, which includes health, wealth, powerful relationships, and a lifestyle they're excited to wake up to every day.
Man,
Mike,
that gets me excited just hearing that last part especially.
It's huge, man. I love your mission. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. And I'm super excited to be here. And I've watched you from close and far, and it's just awesome to see you crushing into life, man. And then talk about real as real comes. I mean, it doesn't get any more real than you, brother. And I'm proud to be here. Thank you. It means
a lot coming from you. And it's, as I mentioned, just with this era of social media, I think so much gets lost in translation. And when you meet someone like yourself and you connect, it was like instantly once we had coffee, it's like, all right, this is real.
No doubt. And really it comes down to it just being real together and spilling the beans, sharing the shit, instead of just thumping chest. And, there's so many of those, alphas in the world that just thump their chest and just, scream and holler, in a world of that, be something different. And when we sat down to coffee and we just talked about our shadows and our darkness and our struggles and our challenges and really got into the bare bones of what wasn't working or what hadn't worked in our life. And that's when two human beings really connect at the soul level, man. And I think that's why we're here. And that's why I'm excited to just jam with you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I'm excited to learn a little bit more about you and for our guests, obviously, to learn more about you. So we like to take our guests through their entrepreneurial journey, kind of compare that to the brewing process where we came up with the name Entrepreneur. So the first thing we love to know is a little bit about history about you. So give us the version, whatever way you want to go, talking about, how you got started and where you're at today and everything in between.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I think it really starts with being exactly who I was never intended to be in this world. So I grew up in a lower middle class family, steelworker family in Baltimore, Maryland. And my dad instilled these values in me. You got to work hard for your money. You got to, if you sit still, you're lazy. You got to do shit you hate in your life. It's just the way things are. The rich are slimy and they're evil and they're greedy. And, you can't trust any politician. And it was like, my dad loved me very, very much, but he instilled a lot of values that he felt were going to keep me safe. But really what they did was send me down a path that it really was struggle-licious. And it created this divide between who I thought I needed to be, or who I thought the way I thought life was supposed to be lived, and who I really was always intended to be. And I joined I graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps, spent 5 awesome years in the Marine Corps, had a lot of success there, got out of the Marine Corps, started ascending the ladder in corporate America, got educated. The corporate educated me, sent me all over, the country to train, rose through executive ranks. And man, in 2016, I was so far out of alignment with who I wanted to be in this world. And I was running I had run $65 million organizations and $350 million organizations from the captain's chair. And I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like a fraud. I felt like an imposter. I wrote a book called The Imposter in Charge. And I was so far out of balance and out of whack with where I wanted to be in life, with my talents, with my gifts, with what I wanted and who I was. And I was just, but I was living according to these beliefs and this script that was created in my early childhood, and everything fell apart. And I was 300 pounds. I was suicidal. I was drinking at toxic levels. I was physically, mentally, emotionally abusive to my wife and my children, my kids, and my kids grew up. And today is my oldest daughter's 21st birthday. And my younger daughter is 18, but they grew up in a physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually abusive home. And it was like a combat zone. And a lot of that, most of that, all of it had to do with the fact that I was trying to be someone I was never intended to be. And there was so much anger, so much stress, so much struggle, so much like internal conflict in me. I didn't know how to live, and I didn't know how to operate in this world. And everything collapsed. I got fired from 2 executive level after a lot of success. I got fired from 2 executive level positions in about 20 months. And my wife and I were upside down in our marriage. And again, all the conflict and the chaos, and almost, I literally stuck a barrel of a gun in my mouth. And when I pulled it back out, I said, you know what? If everything that I've learned and the ways I've operated in this world and the beliefs that I'm holding that sometimes are in conflict with what I think is true, but I was told by my dad and by teachers and pastors and all this stuff that's accumulated, got, a barrel stuck in my mouth, and it might all be bullshit. So let's figure out what's real and what's not. And that's kind of when I hit the reset. And I did file for divorce from my wife. And we've since patched our marriage back up, because we started living life according to like a different set of values than marriage has to be hard and you have to fight or it's not okay. And we started parenting in a very healthy way. And I told my wife, I'm never going to go back. I'm never being employed. I'm completely unemployable. I'll never go and work for anybody ever again. And I started a business. I started Inner Wealth Global, and we moved the needle in people's lives. And it was always who I was intended to be. And I think the backstory, Adam, is when I was in my corporate settings, I only enjoyed developing people and developing teams. I hated P&Ls. I hated operations. I hated supply chain. I hated marketing. I hated everything involved in a big business. The only thing I loved is growing people and growing teams. And I was world class at that. But since it was so easy for me, I didn't understand it was a gift and a talent. And when I hit the reset, I figured out I'll never do anything that I hate ever again. And let's just focus on those things that I do at a world class level. And that's why I started the business that I started. And now we reach around the world and touch souls around the world, and we make an impact, and we move the needle. Like wealth and success, absolutely, but happiness, definitely.
Wow. A lot to take away from that. And I appreciate you sharing that story. I know, obviously it's probably not easy to always go back and talk about those things, but I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that it helps people. There's people that are listening to this podcast that whether it was one thing or 10 things from that, it hit home.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you and I connect so well, is because we talk about the crap that most people don't want to talk about.
Absolutely.
But that's what, the authenticity around that is what helps drive people forward.
Sure, man.
And it helps people connect, and more people have gone through something like that than not. And something that you said there, the alignment aspect with who you were truly meant to be, I cannot agree with that more. I went to corporate America. I worked 5 years there, and it was everything that everybody told me I had to do.
Absolutely.
And I had all the money. I had the benefits. I had the travel. I had like everything that most individuals would be so thrilled and like literally die for. But for me, it was that empty feeling. It was like, what in the world are you doing?
Yeah, I'm missing something. There's something that's off. I'm supposed to be like this. This is supposed to be perfect, but it feels fake. It feels like it's all going to fall apart. And I'm not feeling any sense of fulfillment out of having everything.
Yep. You think it's everything that you're supposed to have once you have it. I think, and even talking with entrepreneurs now, the people that do have it figured out, I talk to people all the time where there's like, I just need this one employee, or I just need X dollar of revenue. I need certain stuff in my bank account. And they're so focused on that one thing.
Right.
It's like, just when you have that, it's not all going to be figured out. Your problems are going to be different. They're going to be at a different level. You have to understand that alignment piece more than any tangible thing that you can get.
And I think the important piece there, and you just kind of hit on something. So we're entrepreneurs for a reason, right? I was in corporate, you were in corporate, and entrepreneurs are restless, right? We said that word right before we hit record. Yeah. Entrepreneurs are restless, and there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be another project. There's always going to be another goal, another target, another client. There's always going to be another. The issue is, are you happy now? And really, it's that thing that you want. And write this down. The thing that you want. The thing that you want won't solve the problem that you have. The problem is you think you have a problem, right? So happiness is now. Joy is now. Fulfillment is now. That thing you want is just another experience in the adventure of life. It's not going to it's not going to make you any more of who you are. It's not going to make you any less of who you are. It's not going to solve any problem in your life. All it's going to do is allow you to experience something that you haven't yet experienced, but it's not going to make you happier. The mind wants to want more than it wants to have. It's never going to let you get there. Your mind, this beautiful human mind, is never going to get you to allow you to get to a finish line. There is no there. The only finish line in life is the last exhale, right? Up till that point, it's a chase. So the question is, from moving from chase, right? Instead of chasing, choose, right? Choose joy now and just adventure for the sake of adventure. But know that thing that you want's not going to fix anything because you're not broken. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful. And I think a lot of people are always getting attached to a business, or they're getting attached to a finite project.
It becomes an identity of sorts.
So I gave a presentation on Tuesday about the importance of personal branding versus your business branding.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people were like, oh, I have a personal brand, but I brand myself as my business. I said, you have no idea if your business is going to be here next year, even next month. And if you tie yourself to that, you are going to be so lost if anything ever happens. Somebody could write you a $2 million check tomorrow for your business, and you'd be like, yeah, I'm out. Well, then if your identity is attached to that one project, everything is gone. So I think that's so important. So walk to me through, as if I'm an entrepreneur that's coming to you in one of your programs, because I know you have a lot of different stuff, which we can unpack here at the end about Inner Wealth Global. But what are some of the things, or what are some of like the common characteristics people come to you with and are like, hey, Mike, I need your help. I don't know where to start, but this is what's going on.
I mean, first and foremost, they're restless. There's this unease inside of them that they know they're not where they want to be, and that they know that there's something more that they're missing, right? Yep. And sometimes it's, I just need more money. I want another comma. I want another zero, right? My relationship with my spouse is upside down, right? For whatever reason, I just can't set aside a time to work out, to take care of myself, to take care of the vehicle. Something's wrong, and I know that something's wrong, and I can't figure it out. Can you help me? So, and I think there's 4 areas, for me, there's 4 areas that we get to dive into. And number one, first and foremost, is our health, because when our health isn't there, right? And I see your journey, man, and I see you crushing it. And when your health there, and I'm talking about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, when that stuff's out of whack, there's nothing else that's going to fall into place. Number 2 is wealth, right? Do you have the financial wherewithal to really make powerful decisions to create instead of just survive, right? Yep. And let's kind of figure out how to navigate that. But and a lot of times with the people that I work with, they have the financial wherewithal. They just don't allow themselves to experience it and feel it, right? So it's just that next comma is going to give them the safety that they want. They can have safety now. They're just choosing to not have it. They're pushing off security. Like it comes in the form of another zero, another comma, impact in the world, right? And this is where fulfillment really comes from, right? That are you making a difference in the world, or are you just trying to survive? Are you just trying to get from month to month? Are you just like navigating the minefield? Or are you waking up every day excited to make a positive, meaningful, purposeful, intentional, impactful difference in this world? And if you're just trying to survive, you're never going to feel the true fulfillment that is available in making the difference in the world and moving the needle in somebody else's life and making a meaningful contribution to society. And lastly, and I think this is probably the most important for me, right? After we get all of our health in alignment and we're making a difference and we're creating some wealth in our life, right? Not just materially, but just in just everything, just every aspect of life. But do you have powerful, trusting, safe, loving relationships in your life? because there's people that have the health and the wealth and they're making a difference, but they feel alone. And they feel even more broke than anybody else.
Yep.
Right. So those three things, if you don't like parlay that into having a meaningful connection with somebody where you can literally just sit down and be human together and say, you know what? I know you're scared. I am too. We're both scared. Let's not play pretend that we're not scared. We're human beings that have an amygdala, and that amygdala, it fires fight, flight, or freeze responses 1 billion times a day, which floods your body with cortisol. So you're scared. So am I. We're human. It's part of the journey. But this is where that alpha part comes in, right? It was people pretending not to be scared, or people pretending they have it all figured out. I don't think anybody has it all figured out. I don't think our mind is ever, our soul is never going to let us have it all figured out, because there's always going to be another level of growth. But can we just sit down and be human together and just be real and share our shit and share our wins, like shamelessly?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that last part, as you mentioned, is so crucial.
It is.
I think it's the thing that most people obviously are afraid to do, whether it's ego, whether it's that alpha male in people. But I think more importantly, it's just that they feel like they are already on an island, and they don't want people to think that they're out on an island alone. Yeah. And so whatever it is, I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's an amazing journey that I see you walk people through. So I'm excited to.
If I could share one more thing, I think people come for the money, but they stay for the peace, the love, the joy, and the happiness, right? Because typically when somebody joins my mastermind, they stay for a long time. Yeah. They come for the money, and they realize that the reason they wanted the money was for the peace, love, and joy, and happiness, and the internal freedom, and the spiritual connection with themselves and their divinity. They come for the money, but they stay for all of that stuff. And second of all, they choose me as a coach because I'm intense and I'm direct, right? And the former Marine, comes out and, I'll tell you, like, oh, get out of here, you're making excuses. They come for that, but they stay for the acceptance and the trust and the safety they feel with me. Oh, yeah. They know I will never, ever hurt them, regardless of what happens in their life and what challenge they present in front of me. I've had people tell me some egregious things that they've done in their life. And it's like, is that it? Like, you're the only person in the world who's done that? No, get in here. Let's freaking hug it out. Yeah. Let me help you feel even more loved and accepted and appreciated now after you've spilled that than before. And that's what we really want, right? When there's a Buddhist maxim that says, if we all sat around a campfire and all shared our deepest, darkest secrets, we'd all laugh at each other for lack of originality. Like any problem, any challenge any like egregious shit that you've ever done, there's been millions of people before you that did it. You're not so exceptional that you're more broken than anybody else. We're all like imperfect together. Let's just be human together. Embrace it
and move on.
Yeah,
and grow together. Yeah, love that. So as we kind of talk about some of the ingredients within your success throughout running your business in corporate America, I know you talked about building leaders and truly working in what I refer to as your zone of genius and not letting other things kind of come into play. What are 3 key ingredients that have made you successful thus far?
Number one, and we touched on it, just authenticity, right? So there's a great book. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by a gal named Bronnie Ware, W-A-R-E. And regret number one is I wish I would have lived a life true to myself. Instead of the one that everybody else wants me to live. Now, I grew up you got to work for a union if you want to stay safe, and you've got to be a Democrat, because Republicans are stupid. I mean, you've got to be, and I'm not going to. I was born to be a religious fanatic, just like my father, and none of that stuff worked for me. Right. And I tried hard to fit my size 11 into that size 9 shoe. Right. It just didn't fit for me. And it's like real success and fulfillment and joy really started coming for me when I figured out, who am I? Who am I? What do I want? What am I talented at? What do I believe? What do I want to believe? And started like just diving into my authenticity and vulnerability and being raw and exposing the secrets. Like the first chapter of my first book, it shared a lot of shit that I had never told anybody. And it was kind of like a coming out party for me, because once at the end of 8 Mile, that movie about Eminem, right? When you share all your shit, nobody can hold anything against you.
Yeah.
So then all the weapons that weak people would use against you, they all fall away. They have nothing. So now that's where authenticity really steps in, because now that the world knows all of my shit, now let's jam together and let's have some fun. So authenticity is number one. Number two is commitment. Any time in my career that I've succeeded, and I'm talking about in the Marine Corps, in corporate, in my marriage, anytime that I've succeeded, I've gone all in. And when I say all in, I mean 100%. Like when I'm focused on something, anything that gets in the way of that thing has to go. 100% commitment is commitment. 99% commitment is 0% commitment because you're wavering. And whenever in my life I've been fully committed to something working or not, I've proven it true. Every single time, whether it be getting meritoriously promoted in the Marine Corps, whether it be rising to run a $350 million organization, whenever I've got repairing my marriage, whenever I've gone all in, it's worked. But whenever I've held anything back, whenever I've withheld anything, whenever I've been in some state of doubt or, uncertainty that I don't know if this is going to work out, let's give it a shot, it falls flat. But whenever I approach something with full commitment and full level of certainty, it's a done deal. And it's not, I don't believe that I'm any more exceptional than anybody else. I think that is the human paradigm. I think the only reason we fail is because we're not fully committed. So when you hear someone say, and I work with a lot of real estate investors and they say, stay in your corporate gig until you have cash flow. Maybe, but what I've seen work more is when you're up against a wall and you have no other choice, you're going to crush it.
Oh yeah.
You're going to crush it. Yeah. And I think the last piece is just resilience. I got fired twice because I don't quit. I've never quit anything in my life. But no, I lie. I'm lying. I quit one thing in my life. And when I was probably 10 years old, I was a little fat kid, right? And I was playing soccer and this coach would run us to death. And I quit. And my father made me stand in front of my soccer coach and tell him before practice that I was quitting. And I felt such a deep sense of shame and a conviction and a feeling that I had completely been a shameful human being and in opting out of this, that I've never quit anything ever again. Wow. And I'm talking about a run. I'm talking about a workout. I'm talking about a business. I've changed directions, but that's lack of commitment. But whenever I've gone all in, I don't quit. Yeah. And I think that you put those three things together, Adam, authenticity and commitment and resilience, I don't think you can lose. I don't think a human being who demonstrates those three qualities can lose in any game they play.
Yeah. I love the word commitment in the aspect of never quitting with the resilience, because I think social media, has played a big part in this, but I just think the world that we live in where everybody's getting trophies, everybody's winning all these awards, and it's all right, you quit and you still won something. Sure. And so there's that false sense of entitlement. There's the false sense of all that stuff, which then breeds into entrepreneurship, breeds into working for somebody else. And I look at college sports right now as a very, very unique situation that's going on, where it used to be super difficult to transfer. And now all these athletes are just transferring and playing immediately after that. It's because when there is any sort of adversity, there's a quick outlet to go to somewhere where you believe the grass is greener on the other side. And very few times is it actually greener on the other side. You still got to water it over there. And so I think that's the great thing about people like yourself, is that you can tell the level up with the mindset behind all of this stuff. You can have all the tangible skill sets and all that stuff, but if you don't have the commitment and the resilience along with the authenticity, you're going to struggle.
And let's talk about that for a second, because I think this is a very, very important and critical piece. And I just hit the hat. I think it's a very important and critical piece. And this is where, we get to help human beings get to help other human beings feel normal. When you have a guru, when you have a coach, when you have a teacher, when you have someone who's teaching you something, if you give them 100% your perspective that they are perfect in any way, or that they don't have challenges, or that you admire them and you don't see that they're imperfect. If you think that they've got it all figured out, if you think that they've always succeeded, if you think they continue to only succeed, you got to get them off the pedestal. Mm-hmm. You've got to get them off the pedestal. And if they're asking to be there, you got to run for the hills because they're lying to you. Nobody's got it all figured out. Nobody continuously has it all figured out. Challenges, obstacles, shortcomings, failings, whatever you want to call them, they happen. They still happen to me. They still happen to you. Mm-hmm. They happen to your coach. They happen to my coach. They happen to everybody who comes in, who lives, who is a breathing human being. Those things happen. And this is when we do that, when we fall short, we launch that next project and we fall short. We got to take inventory. Where are we falling short? Because I know beyond a reasonable doubt that when I'm fully authentic, when I go all in, and when I don't quit, when I'm resilient, I'll succeed. So if I fall short, one of those three is failing. Mm-hmm. And I got to take, like, if I want to get back in integrity, I got to take a look honestly at where am I not being fully authentic? Where am I not being fully committed? And where am I giving up too soon? Where more resilience would give and double down. Mm-hmm. So it's important to understand that your next failure, your next shortcoming, and it will happen. Mm-hmm. Don't pretend that you're going to succeed the rest of your life. When it happens, take inventory of where you fell short and then make a course correction from there without shame, without guilt, without regret, just knowing that this human journey is imperfect and we're here to be imperfect and continue to evolve until our last breath. And it'll never, ever stop. And you will continue to fail your way to success. You will never succeed your way to success.
So many, just incredible nuggets of information, insights. This is hands down one of the most real and raw episodes we've ever done. And I anticipated that, right? Yeah. But this is just being here. I appreciate you sharing that stuff.
I think it's important. And in my teaching and in my mastermind, I share as much of my shit that I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it helps the person that I'm talking to feel more normal, feel more valuable, feel more real. And whenever I see them starting to put me up on a pedestal, I'm like, you knock me off of that shit. Because when you see that I'm flawed just like you, then you're going to be disappointed in me, and that's unfair to me. Yeah. So nobody is perfect. Nobody's got it all figured out. Don't put anybody up on a pedestal, and don't allow anybody to require you to put them on a pedestal. It's important. We're all equally significant in this world. Some people have accomplished more. Some people have accomplished less, but nobody's less valuable than you are.
Powerful. So transitioning here, talking about one of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way. What would be the one thing that you would teach an entrepreneur that might just be getting started or might be struggling in their journey? What would you share with that person?
There's so outside of the authenticity and the commitment and the resilience, because but let's go somewhere else. Yeah. And I've been sharing this a lot lately. There's there's a book back in the early 2000s called Good to Great. Yep. So Good to Great has a lot of great stuff in there. And a lot of those companies that went from the good level to the great level fell flat, after they started doing the exact opposite of what got them to great. But there's one concept in there called the hedgehog concept. And it is the concept that changed my life and helped me create more wealth, more success, and that last piece, which is more important, the happiness, right? Mm-hmm. So and this simple concept is really important. So I see so many people who are artists, they have some art in them, and they're really talented in an area, and they're trying to build a rental portfolio. Or they've got a hunger and they've got a genius for real estate, and they're trying to run a franchise which is based on a model that somebody else has. So what I'm getting to is you're not allowing yourself to express your genius, your uniqueness in the world. You're trying to fit yourself and take your talents, not use them, and then do something that somebody else is saying, hey, you should look at, like you sit in a room with a bunch of real estate investors and they will say at some point you will believe that I should be building a real estate portfolio. But the point is I have no interest in real estate whatsoever. I coach a lot of real estate investors because they're hungry and they're humble and the smart ones really want to continue to grow. Yeah. The point is I have no interest in it. Why would I get into something where I have no interest? Because if I do, it's just out of desperation. Yeah. It's not out of inspiration. So anyway, the hedgehog concept is, what are you passionate about? What can you be world class at? And what will someone pay you for? When you put those three elements together, you'll never work another day in your life. Yeah. Now, in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he talks about 10,000 hours to master anything, right? You put 10,000 hours, you will become world-class in something. Oh, yeah. So what you're passionate about, what you can become world-class at, which if you're talented and it's a gift and it's a natural gift and you continue to practice it, anything that you practice, you'll get better at. And then you find something that somebody will pay you for, which there's 8 billion people in this world. Anything is monetizable. Yeah. Anything. Oh, yeah. If you look at some of the things that people monetize right now, but we were just talking before this podcast that there's a water brand that, the fact that anyway, there's water brands, I'm not going to go into names, but the fact that there's water brands that still come on the market and go to $700 million, is like unbelievable. Anything is marketable. I think that's the important part. Anything is marketable. So what you're passionate about, what you can become world-class at, what people will pay you for. You'll never work another day in your life. For an entrepreneur or for an emerging entrepreneur or somebody getting into the space, just take inventory of who you are, what you want to do, what you have to bring to the table, and let's find a way to monetize that instead of trying to fit you into something that doesn't work for you.
I love that exercise, and I love the lesson behind it. I think it's very, very powerful. Definitely something that I need to continuously go back and do inventory on as I think about where I'm going and just different opportunities and all these different things. So I think that's great. As we kind of wrap up the episode here, the last thing we like to talk about is distribution. So that is, what is next for Mike? What is next for Inner Wealth Global? What are some things you're working on right now, but what does the future hold for you?
Yeah, so we've got a mastermind. We've had it for 2.5 years. It's powerful, and we want to continue to grow the mastermind because it really is a life changer and a needle mover. We're growing our community. We retreat a couple times a year, and it's the thing that's like most near and dear to me. So in terms of the collective aspect of it, all right, and the community aspect of it, and having people together that are willing to be raw and vulnerable and completely honest with each other. So we're just looking to continue to grow that mastermind. But what I haven't done yet, and the thing that I love the most is speaking. So we're taking this show on the road. I've already been, this year and going back to last year, we've already been on the road a couple times, just, showing up at real estate investment meetups or conferences. And so we're looking to really move the needle in public speaking and just impacting more people from the stage from a mindset and a heart set perspective. My podcast is Lead, Love, Profit, Play. And I've been in today. I hit my 46th country. Oh, so Lebanon came online. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Lebanon, like somebody in my somebody in the world listened to my podcast twice. So when they come back the second time, that they like something that they heard. Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty cool. 777 cities around the world, 6 continents, 46 countries. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's why it's called Inner Wealth Global, is I want to make it a worldwide impact, not just, in my local area. So just continuing to expand that. I've got another book or 10 in me. Yeah. I'm brewing up an idea now for a book that I think will change a lot of lives. But when I take inventory of what I do, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. And as long as I'm writing or teaching or speaking, my life feels good. And then as my life feels good and I continue to do those things more, Inner Wealth Global expands. And we've got, we're starting to hire. We went from, I went from employee to employer now. So we've got people supporting us, and we've got, awesome people just promoting us and just helping us just continue to expand and create exponential results in the world. It really is about moving the needle in other people's lives more than just our own lives.
Yeah. No, I love that. This was a phenomenal episode. I learned a lot. I know the audience is going to learn a lot. So thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate your authenticity. Anytime I see or hear from you, I get more motivated. It lights me up. So I wanted to say thank you for coming on.
And here's another little bit of authenticity. I see you with pictures in an ice bath. I think you're a lunatic.
Yeah.
All right. Now that works for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. There's some things that people do to grow themselves that don't fit for other people.
Yep.
But there are people in the world that will say, well, you're just running from it. You know, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I think we're all here on different paths. So pick your poison, pick the things that light your soul on fire and do that. Because at the end of the day, there's no gold medal for suffering enough.
Yeah.
There's no gold medal for stress and for struggle, like a life well struggled. There's no medal for that. You die.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you not enjoy any second of your life until your last breath? That just doesn't make any sense. So I honor you for an ice bath. And I do think you're a little bit of a lunatic.
I will take that. I will take that.
That was said with love.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, Mike, where can people find out more about you online, websites, all that good stuff? We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, follow me on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We just started really building our YouTube channel, TikTok, all the primary socials, LinkedIn, and a little bit of Twitter, not a whole lot of Twitter. Awesome. Our website is Inner Wealth Global. And that's where it all comes together. Our podcast is accessible there, but our podcast Lead, Love, Profit, Play. Never twisted that one up before, but Lead, Love, Profit, Play. It's available on all the major platforms, and we just want to get our voice out in the world as much as possible because it is a voice of creation instead of just surviving. And I think that's the dilemma that human beings find themselves in, and that's really one of our core missions is helping people shift from any sense of survival mode into creation mode. And the more we can get into people's ears and get into people's eyes, the more their lives are going to benefit from it.
Love that. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank you again to the audience for tuning in to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. We'll see y'all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's go.